Well, there you go, folks. It's Radio FM 88 Australia, and if you like, you can see by the kangaroos and the imagery behind me, you know that you are in Australia. And our co-host, is at the top of the totem pole, and none other than Andrena Forrest. I just want to remind people that Andrena did get hacked just prior to Christmas, and her site got taken down. She has got a new site, and if you do get a friend request, it's legitimate. So I just want to make that point known. And without further ado, it's amazing. We've got 3 time zones today. So, of course, we're in Australia, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning in the United Kingdom, and 3 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, in the morning in USA. Anyways, without further ado, Andrena, you take it away.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream. If you're an old listener, welcome, and if you're a new listener, welcome. Today is the 26th of January 2023, another number 7 day, and today it's my great pleasure to have Theresa Crabtree on the show. And I connected with Theresa many years ago. Somebody had given me her email address because she does SoulCleanse, and at the time I think I had all sorts of different things going on, and I thought, oh, that sounds just what I probably need, another stepping stone along the path. So since then I purchased one of her books. I think it was the one about fairy realms or diva spirits, which I've still got. But you've got such a story to share of the work that you do and the books that you've written and going into the prisons. And you just do such amazing work. So welcome. And I would love you to share your story.
All right. Well, thank you both, you and Jeffrey, for all the work that you do, bringing people like me on, being able to share our story with everybody. I really appreciate it. And it's a very needed service.
Thank you. So, because I know you are a reverend, but did you come from a family background like that in any way?
No, my dad was raised Catholic. He had 13 siblings, and he married my mother, who was not into any kind of a church. And so we were sent to the Catholic school up until 8th grade. And when I was in 2nd grade, I had a traumatic experience with the priest in the confessional. The confessional is where you're supposed to go and say your sins, and he forgives your sins and all that. But what kind of sins do you have when you're in 2nd grade? So I just told him that I hadn't gone to church that Sunday, thinking that was a pretty safe sin. I didn't know until 45 years later why. Part of the reason why he went crazy. He went in there, he's screaming and he's yelling and everything else. And I come out, and when we did this, it was during school time. So all of our classmates, both of the 2nd grade classes were there, and we had 20, 30 kids in each class. So I come out, and all of the kids, their eyes are like, and the 2 nuns that were our teachers were like, so I'm thinking they probably thought I committed murder or something. And it really traumatized me because those kids probably in a month or 2 forgot all about it, but I didn't. I always thought that they were judging me. So all the way up until 8th grade, I really didn't fit in. I just wanted to stay away. And we were also being taught at that time that you have to have a priest to be a mediator to go to God, to talk to God. And I thought, if that's my mediator, forget it. I don't want anything to do with that guy. So as I was thinking about this show, I was thinking about that, and I was like, it wasn't, that happened about 60 years ago. And it wasn't until just the other day that I really hit what a true blessing that was, because I didn't suck into a lot of the stuff that the Catholic Church was trying to teach me. There's a lot of beautiful teachings and stuff, but I didn't suck into their idea of God. I didn't like that punishing God. I thought, my dad's better than that. I'll make him a God before this one that they want. And he's not quite perfect. And he knows how to yell like that priest did, but not in front of 60 other people, my peers and stuff. So that was it. So I went to the school, and I'm the youngest of 4. So my last day of school, my dad said to me, and my parents were divorced. They lived near each other, but they were divorced at the time. And I lived with my mother, but he said, you're big enough now. You can go to church on your own, which in other words, he's saying, I'm not going to church. You don't have to. Because when as long as we were going to the school, it was free schooling as long as you're an active member of the parish. And then after that, he didn't go to church either. So I was over the Catholic thing anyway. And the Catholic high school near me got closed. So it's like, I had to go to public school, which was, yes, where I needed to be. A lot more freedom there. So that's my
story. That's quite an experience, isn't it? And it makes you wonder how many other people along the way would have suffered and carried that trauma all the way through.
Yeah, and even as I thought about it too, even the kids in my class, I was like the second or third one to go in that day. So there were still 50 more that had to go in there. What fear they must have had. This is supposed to be a loving place and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not discriminating. So, he wasn't being smart in what he did either, because he traumatized all those others. And who knows who they told, and you got this ripple effect going.
Yeah,
But anyway, I found, I don't know, about a year ago, I went back to look so I was trying to figure out how to spell his name. I'm writing another book, and that story is going to be in the book. And I wanted to know how to spell his name. And I looked him up, and he had just died like 2 days before. And I had not even, had anything to do with this guy for years. But I was happy to see that there were a lot of remarks about him, what a sweet guy he was, a good guy, and all of that stuff. I just got him on a bad day.
Yeah.
And there is some backstory to that too. Plus, we were the first family that was divorced, so we were kind of like, those kids are going to go to hell anyway because they're being raised by their mother, and she's a heathen, kind of stuff.
Yeah, sad way of life for some, still.
Yeah, but there's good and bad and everything.
Oh, yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, I was very angry at the church because I had a lot of other experiences there too, and I finally settled all that and realized what a blessing it was, because it did introduce me to Jesus, who ended up becoming a very good friend of mine. Things like that, and also there's so much fear of hell that they put into you. So there were things that I would have done or might have done, but I thought, I don't want to take that risk of going to hell. So I don't want to drink, I don't want to smoke. I may cuss, but God will get over it.
Yeah, deep fear mongering, eh?
Yeah.
So what took you on? Because I know, like, you do the SoulCleanse, and you, excuse me, you work with the Council of 13, and so, I mean, not everybody knows what a SoulCleanse is. Would you like to explain a little bit more for our listeners?
Sure. The SoulCleanse is it's a method that was given to me by my guides, and it's a powerful method of cleaning out non-beneficial energies and also entities, dark entities, earthbound spirits, and all of that. I check geopathic stress, all those kinds of things. So it's very, very powerful. And I work by donation. So that was one of the things that I wanted to do. And so people come to me and I do the work. I do it all remotely, and I do it all through emails, and it's just quick, it's done. And then I also give people, I show them, if a lot of my clients have been entities attached to them, and some of them are actually even fully possessed. So I teach them what's making them vulnerable. We find out where it started and how we strengthen the vulnerability, which is usually comes from unresolved emotional trauma, which almost always goes back to early childhood, sometimes the other past lives as well. So we find out what the vulnerability is so they can change it, and then empower themselves. That's my whole work is just about self-empowerment. So I give them a lot of different tools that they can use and suggestions, and they can, at any time, they can come back and, if they need a little bit of guidance or they got some more entities on them or whatever, and then we're able to get those off. And most of my clients are light workers, and they've come through the years. A lot of them weren't trained properly anyway. So I know when I first started getting into this and hearing people talking about Reiki and all these other things, a lot of them, at that time, a lot of people were saying, well, I'm going to take on my client's stuff and let it run through me and all. It's like, that's the problem. It was running through them, but it was also sticking, because it was sticking to anything, any imbalance that they had. It's like glue. There's all that stuff is sticking to them, and sometimes the entities were getting onto them. So most of my clients are light workers that got stuck, and most of the times they got stuck is they still have unresolved issues, or they're absorbing all that energy from their clients and from friends and family too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what? How did you come into was it like doing through deep spiritual work that you worked with the Council of 13 and, you know, you all worked together and you're given information?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start back. I was asking my guides, where do we go? Because I've had so many metaphysical experiences and I've been psychic since a child. So there's so much.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, they helped me hone it down to kind of give the story the best ones. And for each thing that I'm going to share, I wanted something that has a pertinent message so that everybody that's listening to this can walk away with something. So, but one of my psychic gifts as a child that was very strong was I could tell when people were lying, and it drove me crazy because I'd hear like my mom would be on the phone. Oh yeah, come on over. That'd be great. And you get off the phone. Oh God, she's coming over again. And things like that, or I could just, even if they didn't speak it, I could read their minds, read their energy. So I knew when they were lying to me, especially my parents, especially my mother, would lie a lot. It's just like, it just drove me crazy. Just be honest. If you could just be honest and let the love in and let the love flow, people will like you. You don't have to make up all this stuff and this is crazy stuff. So, my main awakening shift began when I was 35. I had several different things that happened. And one of the first things that happened was I went on a cruise. And on the cruise, they had a psychic medium that was doing public readings, but he also was doing private readings for like $10. And I didn't want to go, but my sister-in-law did. And she talked me into it. So I said, oh, well, because I was kind of afraid of it because I was just kind of afraid of psychics and that I didn't know anything really about it. It kind of scared me. And so she had her reading and I went in right after her and he was doing the readings in his cabin. And I walked in the door and before I even had a chance to sit down, he says, well, you have the gift. And I go, yes. And when I said yes, that even surprised me that because by then a lot of it, I just thought it was just me. I don't know anybody's any different. So I'm still at that stage in my life. And so he says, I have the gift. And I said, yes. And he says, well, why don't you use it? I said, well, I'm kind of afraid of it. I don't really know what to do with it. So anyway, so we were going to this reading and this guy's incredible. He's just telling me all this different stuff that nobody could have possibly known. And this is my first reading ever. So I'm just like blown away. And then he gets to the part and he says, well, let's talk a little bit about the career area, your jobs and stuff. And then he goes, oh, what's that noise? What's that noise? Turn it off. And in my mind, I turned down and I pushed a button. And he said, what was that? And I was hearing the noise. When he said that, I heard the noise. I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I was going down to push the button to turn off the weed whacker. And
the who?
It was a weed whacker. It's one of those electric devices to cut
the
grass. And it's like a lawnmower. It's just very loud. And you have to wear earplugs and stuff. So he was picking up on that sound. And I heard the sound. And I turned in my mind, I'm going down and I'm turning it off. And I apologized to him. And as I'm talking, I'm like, this is weird. We're out in the middle of the ocean. That weed whacker is nowhere near me. I did not pack that.
Wow.
I have known that. I didn't look like a weed whacker person, but I was doing the lawn work at the church at that time. And so there's the weed whacker. And so that blew me away. And he just said so many things that blew me away. And then our session was over and I left and I was his last reading for that time. So he was behind me. So we're going down the hallway. I'm ahead of him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm supposed to meet my sister-in-law, but I was so blown away by him. I didn't remember if I was supposed to turn left or right or where I was supposed to go. And I couldn't remember how to get to the place where we were going to meet. And so I'm thinking, am I going the right direction or not? And he says, well, where are you going? And I says, well, I'm going to go meet my sister-in-law who was, your former reading and I'm going to meet her up in the lobby where you were doing your public readings. And he says, oh, well, you're going in the right direction. Just keep going and you'll see the steps on the left. And when you get to them, take the stairs, 2 stairwells, take the one on the right and we'll take you right up into the lobby. And I said, great, thanks. And then I just stopped in my steps and I turned around and looked at him. We hadn't spoken a word out loud. All telepathic, just like I'm talking to you. It was that clear. And I turned around and I said, did that just happen? He said, yes, you're meeting your sister-in-law. He says, go up there. I gave you the directions. And I was like, whoa. So that opened me up to accepting my gifts more and the psychic abilities and stuff. I wasn't so much afraid of it. He kept talking about a book to develop my psychic skills and all that. And I didn't do much with it, but it at least opened my mind up to it, that this isn't as scary as it was at that point. But I do have a message on that subject of psychics that I'd like to like kind of like a warning, I guess, because I've had a lot of different psychic readings through the years, and almost all my psychic readings, they've come to me, or I was really guided to go to them, and most of them had a lot of good insights, giving me good information and everything else, but some led me down the wrong path, and I think it's because the reader was interpreting something. It's got to go through their own filter and spit it out in a way that they thought it was supposed to look like, or I misinterpreted it, and so I go down the wrong path. And so I just want people to really be tuned in with your own intuition so that you don't get led down the wrong path. And also, not all psychics are in tune with beings of light. There are a lot of psychics out there that are giving readings, tarot readers and such, that they don't have the skills. They haven't really tuned in. And a lot of them are not tuned into beings of light. They might think they are, but they're not. And they're just allowing stuff to come through. And then there's those who are definitely purposely that try to create chaos. There's a lot of wolves out there in sheep's clothing. So we have to really be careful. And another thing I learned from this particular psychic, because one thing he said to me, he said, I don't see a man in your house in 6 months. And I'm married at the time. And I already knew I need to dump this guy. This is not working for us. And but I put it off. I didn't want it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, am I just going to get a divorce from this guy because, you know, he said that? So I waited 6 months just because I didn't want to, make this a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it makes you question yourself too. So you have to be careful when they give you a premonition, because it might not be accurate, or you might be trying to push something before it's ready to go. So just be really careful if you do. And I'm a big promoter on meditation, really daily meditation and deep meditation, because if you learn to trust your intuition, then you won't have to rely heavily on psychics. And a lot of my clients, that's the problem. They get off because the psychic will say this one or this one will say that. And sometimes the psychic, everybody's got the right truth, but they get coming in from different angles. So it's confusing to the person who's getting too many readings and just too much out of their own intuition, out of their own heart. So you have that information in yourself. And I'm not knocking psychics or anything like that, because I always love it when someone was giving me a psychic reading, but I'm very picky about what I allow in and such. So.
Yeah, interesting, because my mum was a medium and a healer. So we've grown up in that background, and seances and Ouija boards and all sorts used to happen in the house. So so know exactly what you're talking about. And it is like being more in your heart and following your heart and your feelings, and that's what leads the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Ouija boards and even tarot is more really not about the cards themselves anyway. It's just more of helping the reader get out of their own way, get out of their mind, literally. With the Ouija board and some of these others, the pendulum and all, you're not really knowing what you do and not really stable. The darkness, it's a tool that lower vibrational entities can easily use. And it's one that higher vibrations really don't even need to use, because if you're tuned in, you're going to get it telepathically or whatever. So.
Yeah, we used to have, I don't know if you recall, like many years ago, used to have the silver trumpets with the luminous paint painted on either side. So when it was dark, you could see it go around the room. Anyway. So carry on, because I know you've got lots of stories to share. So, whatever you feel is relevant.
Well, soon after I took the cruise, then I started cleaning houses at that time. And I had a client that she kept saying, you got the gift. She's like saying the same thing the psychic had said. It's kind of like freaking me out, because she didn't know that he had said those exact words to me. And she was trying to push out on a limb, what's her name? Shirley MacLaine's book on me and all that. And I still wasn't too sure that I wanted to do that. But anyway, she ended up saying there was a conference coming in town, and it was just, we were in Orlando, Florida at the time. And she said that she wanted me to go. You really need to go. You really need to go. And so she pushed me and I went. I was blown open. It was, and day conference was put on by the Edgar Cayce Foundation, and there were 2 women. And I didn't know it at the time that in the room there was like 200 different people, and they these people were all into metaphysics. They were psychic mediums. These were people doing this work professionally. I had no idea. I come in as a newbie, and we had done several hands-on experiences all throughout the day. And I was just blown away. Things were happening. I went into past lives. I was reading photographs. People were giving me readings. I was giving them readings. We were having telepathic communications. And so it just really blew my mind open. And when I was finished with that, I went home for 3 days. I told my kids, don't bother me. I got to go in that room. And I asked if I could go through that whole day, starting right from the beginning, and understand each of the different things that happen, because there's so many different phases of stuff that happen. So I ended up within the next few months, since it blew my mind open so much, I had to make some life changes and some other things that happened as well. So I made some big life changes at 35. And I realized at that point that I had been given most of my power over to my mother, because I was trying to please her and I was trying to save her. And I realized that I don't need to do either of those things anymore. And so that ended up starting with, because she couldn't handle my rules, I made up some new rules, which is just basically respect. And she couldn't adhere to that. So it ended up 12 years of silence between us. We didn't talk for 12 years.
Really?
And I wanted to find myself. That's what I went to do. And I had to get over the anger of her and all of that. So she's 95 now, and she's in the other room. So I ended up as her caregiver. So I said to her, watch for what you pray for, because I was praying for unconditional love. So I ended up getting her to be her caregiver. So I was like, so I'm getting to practice unconditional love. I'm doing pretty good some days.
Yeah. Yeah, on a good day.
So anyway, going back to when I was 35 that year, after seeing that psychic, he said, within 6 months, I won't see a man in your house. So I made sure I went after 6 months. So at 8 months, we got divorced. It was a quick, easy divorce, no problems there. So I divorced him. I had an experience. I had gone back to college, and I had an experience there, and that made me question all of my beliefs. And so I decided to leave the church. I was already out of the Catholic Church. I didn't want anything to do with that. And I had joined the Church of Christ. And so I left the church, and that was really hard because, as I mentioned earlier, they were my employer. I did the cleaning there. I did the yard work, and another lady and I were revamping their whole library. I mean, I lived at that church, and it was also one of those churches where they all your friends should be church members, not the outsiders. You bring the insiders in, you convert them, and then they make them your friends, kind of a thing. So I had to leave all of them, and that was really hard because they were not only were they my friends. Anytime I did want to see them, we go out for coffee or tea or something, they would be trying to proselytize me and get me back into the church because they wanted to save me because they knew I was going to go to hell, So I just ended up having to leave all my friends, my employment, everything. And I had 2 kids, and now I got rid of my husband. I had my first husband, who's the father of my children. I took him back for child support, and he had told me one time, if you ever take me back for child support, I'll kill you. Oh. And I know he was saying in anger, and he said, I hope he was. But so I turned my whole world upside down. And I mean, it was very scary, but it was also very freeing because I just got rid of all my paradigms, and now I'm recreating. Who am I going to be? What am I? Because I was lost there for a little while. I mean, when I went to college to prove to myself I could do something, that I wasn't stupid, because things my mother had said as a kid, careless words, and I thought I was stupid. When I found out I wasn't stupid, because I got accepted into an honors program at 35, I was like, I cried. I was like, oh my God, I'm not stupid, So it was just the whole thing. I didn't know who I was. I just sat there and I didn't know who I was. So I encourage all your listeners, if you just take stock of your life, just sit down and look at what's working in your life and what's not working in your life, and then have the courage to make the necessary changes, and just free yourself from the bonds that you created.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when I started college at 35, I didn't have a career goal. I was like, I just got to do something. What I had realized with my mother was how that came about was, I'm a finisher normally. I'm a starter, I'm a finisher, and I love the process in between, no matter what it is, mundane or whatever. And but I noticed on certain projects throughout my life that I just didn't finish them. Why did I drop those? I was so gung-ho and really excited about it, and then I dropped it. And when I was praying about that, then I realized the things that I dropped were things that I was doing. And then my mom would say something, and I'd tell her about it, and she said, why are you wasting your time on that? like that. And I realized the pattern. That's when I realized how I had given so much of my power over to her. So I decided I wanted to do something that was big, that would be good for me, and that I could finish. So I could prove to myself I am a finisher. So I was planning on going for maybe like a 9-month something, because I needed to get a career. I was working as a nurse's aide, but I got rid of my husband. So now I need to make more money. And I wanted some kind of a career, but I didn't know what. I knew I wanted something service oriented, but I didn't know what it was. So, but I ended up doing a 4-year and becoming a school teacher. So, and that was one of those where a psychic had told me that I was going to be a teacher. So I thought, well, maybe I better go in and get a school teaching. I tried to push it, and I got myself off the wrong path. She gave me the right path, because now I am a teacher. But all I could think of teaching was, it must be in the schools. And that didn't work for me. It was too much structure. One of the things that psychic on the cruise had told me, he says, you need to be an entrepreneur. And I had to go look it up later, because I was too embarrassed to tell him I didn't know what that meant. But an entrepreneur, because he had said, he said, you're kind of sassy and you don't put up with crap. And he said, so you need to be your own boss. And every time I've had a boss, it's been like, I'll walk out from a job. I'm a bridge burner. I'll just walk out from the job. I don't care. It's something else. And I've got to put up with the crap, and play these games and stuff. It's just not for me. So anyway, but through the years, I found that this was what's true with most people, was they don't know their life purpose. Almost everybody I know, whether they're light workers or not light workers, they don't know why they're on Earth, and they don't know what in the world to do, literally. And so, and a lot of my clients come to me and they say they don't know what their life purpose is. And I didn't know my life purpose really until I got into my 50s. But my message to everybody is, if you have specific work to do when the time is right, and if you're doing your inner work, you're going to know what to say or do in a moment. And the main role for anyone that's on the awakening path is just to be love and to anchor that love. Because sometimes we're not here for a big mission. We're not going to run a country or run this or have this business or whatnot. Some of us it's just to anchor love. And I think a lot of these people that come in that are severely handicapped, they're choosing that, but they can't work or anything. So they're not going to have a career. A lot of them can't, like with autism and stuff, they can't even communicate properly with others. But there's so many of them that within, they are tuned right into source. They're just tapped in. So maybe all their purpose is to be love. They may be doing something for a karmic reason too, but it might just be to anchor love. That's the most important thing, no matter what we're doing. No matter what you are doing, do it with love and gratitude. Be right there, be committed in the moment, whether you're doing dishes or you're helping others or you're running a business. Be committed in that moment and do it with love.
Definitely. And it's about having a focus as well, and keeping your focus and not, going off this tangent and that tangent. Is keep bringing your back to self. And I know when lockdown happened, and I was staying with my sister in Bristol and her daughter, and we made a point of, we always carried on going out for walks through parks and what have you. And we made a point of talking to everybody. We always spoke, we said hello, we smiled. A lot of people would look at us cockled, didn't speak to us. And we had lovely conversations with people that we would have never met before. And I just by, in the supermarket, I always talk to somebody in front of me or behind me or the checkout. I always make an extra point of, just going that a little bit further with them and just acknowledging them and just saying, how are you doing today? Or just seeing where they're at. And it's little things like that make a difference. Like you say, you don't have to be out a world leader doing things, you can do from the little things, and they ripple out, don't they?
Yeah. And we have no idea who we're affecting and how we're affecting them. I remember hearing 2 different stories that people were, both times they were sitting out in the park on a bench and thinking of suicide. How am I going to kill myself? I've had enough. And a stranger, one of them, the stranger just came down, it may have been an angel really in human disguise, sat down and just started chatting with them, and then ended up spilling their guts, and they were fine. And another one, somebody just walked by and smiled at them. And they said it was the first time in their life that they really felt like somebody looked at them and acknowledged them and saw them. This is a smile from a stranger. So we have no idea how much we were affecting other people.
No, not at all. Not at all. But, you know, and that could be things that people could start doing. I mean, a lot of people are shy and don't want to speak. But, you know, if you just, you just talk in the shops, or you just pass by and say, hi, good morning, or something like that. You just don't know what that little spark of light does for that person.
Yeah. We don't know.
Right. So carry on.
Well, to coin a phrase from the title of your show, Dreaming the Dream, when I was dreaming the new dream, because that's what I was doing. I didn't know who I was, and I was kind of lost. And so I had to dream a new dream. And as I was dreaming about, okay, how do I pay the bills? I've got 2 coming up into teenage years. There's going to be some expenses here. But I started coming up with some parameters of what I really wanted. And I knew I wanted to be of service to others. And I wanted to work by donation, so that whatever, I wanted everybody to be able to afford me, because there's so many different things that people do, and you can't spend $300 an hour on this or that, you know. So I wanted it to be affordable to everybody. And I wanted the freedom to set my own hours, and I wanted to work from home. And I also wanted to do my work through emails instead of phone or in person, for a number of reasons. And it took a lot of ups and downs. I had to go through jump a lot of hoops, and mostly my own blocks and fears of what I was going to do, because I got to make money, got to have, you know, regular paycheck coming in and all of that. But then I also had a lot of mystical experiences. So, but I did. Where I'm at now is exactly that dream that I dreamed, and I've been doing this way for several years. So I finally created the parameters of my job. So I encourage people, if you don't know what your dream is, it's important to know how you want to serve others, because that's where we get our joys, when we're serving others. And if you can make your money serving others or not, you know, but no matter what, in some way you're serving others. Even if you're the dishwasher, you know, you're serving other people. But if you can find out what your passion is and what brings you joy, and then think of things such as, do you want to work for yourself or someone else, or just set your own parameters, and then meditate for guidance and be ready to take the next step when it happens. There's so many people that are just stuck because I don't know what to do, and what they're doing, they're trying to figure out what the whole picture is. I didn't know what the whole picture was for years. It was incremental. And sometimes we have to take a job that's not something that really excites us, but sometimes that job that we're led to will lead us to another person or to the next step, or give us a skill that we needed to get to where we're going. So if you're tuned in, then you'll know what steps to take. And you just have to be ready to have the courage, because I stymied myself and blocked myself for years on different parts of my path, just out of fear. And it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I had an interesting experience when I was around 8 years old. And there were 3 different men that I knew. One was our local grocer, and the other 2 I knew through my dad. And all 3 of them used to talk about, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And especially the grocer, he lived there 24/7 pretty much at his store. And he, you know, people come in and talk about they went fishing and went on this trip or that. He says, oh yeah, I'm looking forward. When I retire, I'm going to do that. So all 3 of these men had that same mindset. Now I'm 8 years old, and all 3 of them, right after retired. One was 3 days after his retirement. The other one died like a week later, and the other one died by a month or 2 after his retirement. And I'm watching this. These are the guys that were putting their life on hold until they retired. And I had a very strong voice that come in to me and told me, enjoy your life now, because you're not going to retire. At a time that other people are thinking about getting ready to retire, that's when your work is going to start. And that's exactly what happened. Because the catalyst for my current work started on September 11th, 2001. And I was at a hardware store getting some paint and stuff. But I heard that a plane I'm shortening the story. When that second plane hit the Twin Towers in New York City, I had the strangest reaction. I got up. By that time I was home, and I'm sitting there, show me that plane. I have to see that plane. I have to see that second plane, not the first plane, a second plane. And I'm like, I'm watching myself, and it's just like I'm kind of watching myself out of the body. Like, who are you? What are you doing? And what's going on in your head? And but when I saw that second plane hit the Twin Towers, I started jumping up and down. I'm like, I'm happy. I'm singing, yes, yes. Now they'll listen. Now they'll listen. Now I can do my work. Yay, yay, yay. They're finally going to listen. And I'm like, I didn't know what my work was. And I'm like thinking, I'm watching this screen. There's a lot of people dying right here in front of my eyes, and I'm doing a Jubilee dance. And I'm like, it blew me away. And that's when I learned and realized that there are trigger points in our life that keep us on our track. So if you don't know what your life purpose or whatever it is, there may be certain trigger points that will happen in your life. Then you'll know. You'll just know. And so there are plenty of them. And you don't need to force the issue.
No.
Yeah. And then whatever you're currently doing, like I said before, do it with love and do it to the best of your ability, whatever you're doing now. And if your work isn't satisfactory, then have the courage to do something else. If you don't work, you can still do a lot. You can sit there on your couch or in your chair in a comfortable place, and you can just sit there and pray and send out love. So everybody can do this.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know what your life purpose is, then it may just be to anchor love, or it'll come when the time is right.
Fabulous. Something popped in then, but it popped out. There's so many things, so many things when you're talking. I'll say that. Let's talk about your books, because I'm interested, like how you went into the prisons, and because back along I worked in a men's open prison for a couple of years, and that was an experience. I was in telecommunications, so. But I always made us, and I was right in the hub of the prison. And I always made a point. I always spoke to everybody regardless. And I never knew what they were in for, because, that wasn't part of the journey for me. But I always just spoke. And, I met some lovely people in there. And, you don't know all the reasons why they're there, what has taken them there, whether it's their own fault or through something else. But, and I just thought, well, everybody's a human, and regardless of what they've done, they're still on their path, just the same. So how did you come about? And I know you've got, was it thousands of books in the libraries now that you've, in the prison libraries, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's funny. When I counted them up later, it was 1,111, 1111.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love numbers.
Yeah. I don't remember I think there's like 1,800 U.S. prisons and state and federal prisons, but not all of them would let my book in. So, but 1,111, when I counted them up, I said, why am I surprised? But how it happened, actually, I went back to the second time I ever had a psychic reading, and it was a spontaneous thing. I was asking this lady, she just got this shipment of essential oils in, and so I was asking her, she was teaching classes on Tuesday, and I was going to her classes at her house, and I just asked her about the essential oils. What are those? Because everybody was so excited about them. I go, what are these things? And so she started telling me, and then she tells me to lay down on her massage table, and I'm like thinking, is she coming on to me? Her husband and her child's downstairs. I think she's straight. Why she want me to lay on this table? And I didn't even realize it was a massage table because I'd never seen a massage table. Anyway, she did a spontaneous reading on me and said so many different things. And one of the things that she said is, she kept saying the word. She said, oh, I don't know what this word means. I don't know what this word means. I said, finally, I just said, well, maybe the word's for me to understand. What's the word? She said, Ecclesiastes. I said, oh, I know exactly what that is. I said, that's a teacher, preacher. She said, well, that's what you are. She said, you're a teacher, preacher. And she said, you're going to teach the teachers. And she said, and I also see a prison ministry. And my heart just went, ugh. And she said, but I don't see you going into prisons. She said, I don't know exactly how you're going to do it. She said, but I don't see you going into prisons. So that was on the back of my head. And I was glad for that, because I would say at that time that I was a terrible flirt, but I wasn't. I was a very good flirt. And going into prisons with men was not going to be a safe environment for me. Even being the pen pals, I got 5 wedding invitations in 1 week. And I'm like, okay. So I talked to some of the guys that I knew. I said, what am I doing wrong? Because they're reading these letters. And I'm not saying anything. So it was very whatever. But anyway, years later, it was about 8 years, I kept getting this information on Mayan calendars and stuff, and I don't know what this was or what they were trying to do, but it was the build up to 2012. Everybody's starting to talk about the Mayan calendar and all. So my guides asked me to sit down. By that time, I was doing automatic writing and automatic typing. They said, we just want to have conversations with you. And it was one of the one of the day keepers of the Mayan calendar, so a spirit being. And so we started having conversations. Then he said, Jamal, you might want to start logging these down and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, they ended up tricking me into this book. I didn't know I was going to write a book. If I did, I probably would have stopped. They know me. I would have stopped. I am the great resister. I was. I mean, now, hey, you're getting better. So I ended up writing this book. It was 384 pages. And at the time,
Wow.
in my messages, I wanted to be off planet. I was tired of it down here. It's just crazy down here. And so I thought, okay, I'll write the book, but then I'm going home. Take me up. Beam me up, everybody. So I got the book all done and it hadn't been edited or anything, but I did the last part. They told me, okay, the book is now complete. So I said, okay, now what? So I thought I was going to get a marketing plan. You're going to make a bunch of money on this, and they told me the reason that I said, why are you coming to me for the Mayan messages and stuff? I don't, don't relate to all this. I do now. And I know why. In past lives started showing me stuff. But they said, anyway, the main reason was we were going to do a wave like they do at the football games, do the wave. They said right now there's so many people focused on the SoulCleanse, the sacred Mayan calendar, because they think it's the end times. They said, we want you to give them hope. There is not the end times. And also we're going to use the calendar because we're going to ride that wave because so many people were into that. So anyway, and then they said, and this is how I heard it. If you don't mind, could you put the book in all of the U.S. state and federal prisons? And I just I'm never going to get off this planet. I'm never going to get out of here. Because I don't know how many there were, but there's a lot. And I already knew that the U.S. penal system we have more per capita, we have more prisons than any other country. So like I said earlier, it was about 800 of them. And I had to call them each individually. It took each about 5 phone calls to be able to get permission or not permission to put the books in there. But as a result, I ended up with a lot of different pen pals and learned a lot about the penal system and a lot of stuff I didn't want to know. And so that's how the Mayan messages started. So I offered the book. Inside the book, there's a invitation to inmates that if you're in prison for a year or more, then you can write to me and you can get a free copy. And that was hard to do too. I'm running off planet, number one. Now I have to give them my address to prisoners.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. So, and anything free that inmates can get, they can get. So I was getting letters like crazy. And I spent all my money doing it. I didn't care because once my money was gone, that's when I'm going. That was my plan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it didn't work. So that's how that happened.
So was that the first book? I've sort of jumped here. So that was your very first book, was it?
Yes, that was the first one.
Yeah.
And I always laugh because it's 384 pages.
Yeah, hold up again.
So people say you teach what you need to learn. I got, oh boy, I got a lot to learn.
Oh my God.
And as I was going through the book, it was very interesting because some days I could do maybe 2. They were all channel messages. There's 260 messages here, and because there's 260 days in their sacred calendar. And some days they would say, no writing today. And after the 3rd or 4th time it happened, I realized the pattern. Whatever it was I was going to write about, I had to experience it on some level at first. So everything in there at some level I have experienced. And
so is it like on each page? Is it sort of like a page a day of the Mayan calendar that you've put channeled information? Or
it's a daily read. It's the subtitle's daily. It's Mayan messages, self-guide to daily. I don't know. I just wrote the book.
I did see somebody say
4 a.m. here, and my mother has just woken up, so she made So I'm like, little whatever.
And we understand.
Yeah.
This is live.
For everybody that doesn't know, she's 95. She has dementia, and she just woke up to go bathroom. It's 4 a.m. here, so she's not gonna know why I'm up. So whatever. So anyway, but it's a daily guide to self-empowerment. So there's 260 days in that calendar. So for each day, there's a different one of the day keepers giving a specific message. So some of them are on 1 page, some of them are 5 or 6 pages. So it teaches a lot. Different. What they told me is that with the calendar, because I do that Mayan astrology, that every day there's different aspects, different personality traits. So each one of those also deals with our different personality traits too. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, because I will share that I sent for the astrology reading, the Mayan off of you, which came so quick. I was so surprised to see the email. And I think, like I shared with you earlier, I could, there was a paragraph in there which made total sense, but the rest of it didn't. You know, obviously I need to read through it again, but I really don't really know very much about the Mayan astrology to understand it. So maybe another time we can have a chit chat, and maybe you can give me a little bit of guidance about my reading.
Yeah, sounds great. And I used to do these, give them freely to inmates too. I'd say, if you send me your birth date and time and stuff like that. And I got so many emails back because inmates, most felons are really hurt inside, and they're bottled up. And so many of them would say, "You're freaking me out. How do you know this about me? Nobody knows this. I never told anybody," because it talks about your strengths and your weaknesses. So if you got your strengths, you may not relate so much because you're already doing that. And you're like, "Oh, okay, I already know that." But if you're not, and you got your weaknesses, it's like, how do they know that? How did they know I was going to take that path and stuff? So it was very interesting to me to watch. So some people have had life-changing events because of this, and then others are like, "I don't get it." So everybody's different. You know, everything reaches everybody in different ways as well.
Amazing. So what was your next book?
I think next one is the one that you got. That was Gardening with Nature Spirits.
That's one.
And that was mostly channeled information, and it was all of my books basically are to empower people. And that one had more to do with gardening. That's where I was at the time, doing more gardening, community gardening and stuff like that. And it's basically about how you can tune in to the nature spirits and make stuff grow, you know, and layout. They can show you the layout of the land. They were showing me stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense why I'm doing that. One of them, it was like, if I had done what I was going to do and not listened to them, the next time there was a hard rain, my garden would have been about 6 feet underwater. I had no idea that all this water was coming down from all these different properties right into that area. And there was at the time, there was 60 horses on one of the adjacent properties. All that horse urine would have been right there where I was going to put the garden. So it's like, wow. And what they told me to do, in a little bit of a wall to build everything else, the rain just funneled right past where all the different places where I was growing stuff. So it was amazing to tune in and get the different features and what you should do and not do, and the different blessings that go with that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to read it again, because obviously I read it, God, I don't know how many years ago I had that book from you. And like I shared, I'm on a farm at the minute, so I can't grow anything because of the goats and sheep. But when I do find my new abode, it will have a lovely garden, so I can do all these beautiful things. So, yeah. So that was your next one.
Yeah, and then the next one was the Feng Shui book, and I was guided to write that one, and I was fighting that one. I'm like, why? I was so mad at the Feng Shui, the westernized, I called it bastardized, the Feng Shui, because so many people were getting people off, and people were like freaking out. By that time I was going to some metaphysical classes and stuff, and this happened because I left my toilet lit up and I didn't have this red thing over here and whatnot. And I'm like, no, Feng Shui is all about flow. Now you're just taking all these rules, going like that. So that book basically was, I still have chapters on like how you can use gemstones and colors and all that, but choose what you like, what you love. And that they're for intentions. A lot of these things don't really have any power unless you give it power. So you have something sitting here and a big amethyst or whatever, and you set it with the intention. And every time you see that, even subconsciously, you're going to have that intention if you put it there. So that's when it's loving, it's belonging, everything's flowing and stuff. So in that book, I talk about some of my experiences I had in that, which is crazy because what other people were doing. And it was just driving me crazy. Because again, people weren't being in their integrity either, because they're doing the stuff because somebody else told them to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're a mess. It's like, no, it's okay. It's okay if you leave your toilet lit up. It really
Yeah.
is. And then it talks in there too. I said, when this first happened, this is an ancient Chinese thing. I lived in Okinawa in modern times, and my toilet was still outside, and it didn't have a lid. In fact, it was in the ground. So a lot of the stuff they're getting upset about, the Chinese weren't doing that either. This is all stuff that was added. But when they did do it, it had a meaning. And usually it had to do more with, where am I going to put my house? Okay, now you're on a block. And another one was people and their house numbers. Come on, people. The house number is a postal thing.
Yeah.
And it can be fun. I don't know if I should say this or not, but I had a boyfriend. He said, the reason I chose this property, he built his own house. He said, but I saw the address. I had to have it. It's 2469. 2 for 69. 2 people for 69. He was a sex addict. Perfect for you. So some house numbers work well.
Well, you did say you're a flirter, so I mean,
Yeah.
Had a hard time breaking up with him. He was fun. Okay.
Oh, I love it.
A Reverend cap on again.
Yeah.
But it won't stay on long. And Tommy, I know you're listening and I know you're cracking up, so be quiet. Don't you put anything online about this.
I think he's your biggest fan from the little comments.
I don't answer these. I see them, and thank you everybody for your comments. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, Andrew's got someone to compete with.
Yeah, and I don't see where I can change anything. But anyway, that's that. So that was that book. What was the next one? Well, the next one was this one, Universal Truth. How do we get the camera there? Universal Truth. Yeah. And what this one is, it's a condensed version of this. What it basically is all the lessons, but without all of the Mayan stuff. And,
right.
So it's a lot easier to read. And
I think I might prefer that one.
Yeah. This one, I was never told to market the Mayan messages. I put it on my website and stuff like that, but I wasn't really supposed to go out and do anything with it. It was this one they told me mainly was people would be drawn to it, who will be drawn to it, but it was mainly for the inmates and stuff. And I turned out, especially in Arizona where I lived at the time, it was right near the Mexican borders right there. So a lot of the Hispanics and stuff were really drawn to it because of their Mayan heritage and the different like the Aztecs and all those that lived down there. And this was to reach those people as well. So that was that one. And then, the next one's a fun one. It was a compilation book. This one is called Enlightenment Behind Bars. Let's see what there. This is a prison, and you can't see it too well, so I can hold it here. Notice this side.
I can see the ring backward.
Yeah, I was visiting an inmate, and there was a double rainbow right over the prison that I was able to capture. So but that one's actually written by 10 different inmates that I had befriended, and so had been pen pals with. So they all wrote, it's all about different spiritual lessons and written by them. And most of them had their awakening in prison. And I had a lot of inmates that tell me that they treat their prison cell like it's an ashram, that a lot of them say, I'm glad that I was incarcerated because it helped me change my life. Forced them to get off the alcohol. It forced them to get off the drugs. It forced them away from everybody. And this one particular inmate, he's in solitary confinement, and he and a couple others told me that a lot of times they have what they call the primal scream, that these people are locked in to a cell with no outside anything. And so now for the first time in their life, they're stuck with just them.
Yeah.
Their own thoughts and what they did and all of that. And he said when they hit rock bottom, there's just like this primal scream. And everybody's like, oh, well, he's going through it. Wonder if he's going to live or not. Because some of them will try to kill themselves after that. They can't deal with their own demons. And then the other ones are like, okay, I got it out. And now I'm going to rebuild my life. So it's always interesting. And my newest one's a fun one. This one is, as Tommy says, the raw me. I need to let the raw me out more. It's called Beyond the Veil, Spirit Guides. So this was when I met my spirit guides. There was 26. I went to a reading, and he told me he saw 26 angels and guides around me. And I said, well, that seems to be a lot. He says, well, you tend to be a resistor. I go, oh, you picked that up? So anyway, so this book is just my first conversation with each of them, and them showing me not only my life path, but also information for anybody else that reads the book. how the universe works and different things as well. So this is a really fun read. I love doing that book. So I'm doing my second one now. This is it's called Beyond the Veil, Spirit Guide. So there's going to be a Beyond series, Beyond the Veil series. Each one's going to be talking about different things.
So if people wanted to get them, are they available on your website, or do they have to go to Amazon? Or
if you go on my website, I prefer it because then I get dollars for the book. If you go on Amazon or other places, I'll get maybe 5 or 10 cents per book. So, but it's on Amazon, and you can get it. It's available in Australia and UK and all that too. So you'll probably get cheaper. Sometimes you can get cheaper rates and stuff like that, depending on what's available. But yeah, you can get them anywhere.
So is that all the books that you've written? I've lost track now.
Yeah,
is that the 6?
There's 6 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one that you're working on?
This one's a fun one. This one's kind of scary one for me because this one's really letting out all my things that have happened to me. So I'm going to be talking about my encounter with the spaceships, my encounter with ETs. That look human, and are not, and a Bigfoot experience, and other things like that. So it's stuff that I haven't really talked about, and it hasn't until recently I've been told it's safe to talk about that now, because it hasn't always been safe, and not only safe for me, but safe for anybody that's else involved in it, because we got a lot of dark people that can do dark things. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited to finally be able to share those stories and stuff. So they tell me too, it's time to, because we need to take the fear out of all of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So is there, I know we're sort of coming up to near the end. So is there anything else that that you'd like to share, or any other stories, or?
Let me just scroll down all my little notes and see what might be the best for you guys today. I could skip a lot of that. Well, anyway, when I went to Sedona, I was guided to go there for 11 years, and then I came back, and I still wanted to be off the planet so much. I got myself down to where I just had $400 to my name, and I had a truck that needed $1,000 of work. So I got really mad at myself. It's like, I want it off the planet. So I finally did a deal with my guys, and I said, if I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll surrender and I'll do my work. And I knew I was going to wake up the next morning, but I didn't want to. And when I did wake up, I was really angry. And then I went into fear because I was afraid of all that. And I didn't know what my life purpose was yet. I didn't know what my work was going to be, but my subconscious knew, and it really scared me. And I didn't know what, but I had all these memories of being a martyr in several different ways for speaking my truth through the years. And then as my guides taught me everything, all the healing techniques, everything that I know, I got it directly from my guides. And when I was doing all right, everything's great until we got to where it's time to start doing exorcisms and getting rid of dark force entities. And that really scared me, because I'd had a couple of friends that I knew that tried to do that with other people, and those entities got attached to them and they couldn't get them off. Nobody could get them off, and it was just ruining their lives. So I was really, really afraid of that. And then that's when I found out all that resisting that I had done for all those years was because I was afraid to do this work. And that was my life work to do. And in my life work there with the SoulCleanse, one of the blessings of it is that we honor the dark forces too. We recognize they came from the same source, just like you and me and everybody else. And they had free will, just like you and me and everybody else. And they made choices that through the years, and like you and I, we can make bad choices, for 60, 70, 80 years. But some of these dark force entities, they're not bound by that. So they've been making bad choices for eons of time.
Yeah.
So they have totally blocked themselves. They don't even believe in a God. And some of them are forced to don't believe in that, whatever, they get punished and stuff from their uppers and all that stuff. So, but one of the huge blessings, not only is it help people, humans, when we're dealing with dark force entities and stuff, we encourage them. We are respectful to them, and we try to gently to get them to look within, find that inner flame within, because they have that same inner flame that you and I and everybody else has. And if they see that inner flame, then that gives them more hope that there is a light that is your connection to source, and you can change. And a lot of them do change. They go to light. Some of them we have to forcefully pull off, but a lot of times, sometimes I actually see them like, okay, waving a white flag.
Oh, really?
I've had enough. And they say, okay, but we send them to a place of quarantine. They have a choice. You can either go to the light, or you're going to be taken off, and you're going to be taken to quarantine. And when you go in quarantine, you're not coming out, because you cannot harass. You've broken all the laws, and you cannot harass humans anymore. So until this human experience on Earth is complete, you're going to be staying in this, and you're going to be staying in quarantine with all these other guys who are just as dark as you. It's not going to be fun, but at any time you can choose to go to the light, but you're not going to harm humans anymore. So they understand that, but they're all arrogant. They think that, your guys are nothing and blah, 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 and then they find out who's the real boss. Is the light always wins. And so, but there's so many of them, once they did go to the light and they went through their cleansing process. Everybody goes through cleansing processes when you go through your awakening. And so a lot of them chose to go to the light. They went through it. And for eons, they've been bad guys, and they have a lot of karma, if you want to call it karma. They want to balance what they did. So a lot of them actually come back and work with our SoulCleanse team. And my team is telling me, they told me years ago, he says, we now have billions of these beings, because sometimes if I pull one entity off, I'm not pulling just him off. He might be the leader of a gang of network, the whole network. So we might be taking actually thousands away at the same time, because they're all going to follow the leader. So, and a lot of them want to go to light, and they change their way. So billions of them now, that when I do the global cleanses, and they're there. I do a global cleanse every morning. It's part of my morning routine. And so, and they're very, they're believable. Let's say, like if you're an alcoholic and I'm coming in there and I'm trying to counsel you, I'm not going to have as much impact with you, because I've never even been drunk. So, you never walked in my path, who are you, lady, so, but if you bring a dark force entity who was a dark force entity, and they safely went to the light, and they've changed their way, they have a lot more punch. So they're able to talk a lot more of these guys into going to the light. So they've become a very integral part of my SoulCleanse. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, no, you do amazing work. I'd like to thank you on behalf of everyone, including myself. You do such powerful work, and obviously in your books, there's so much wisdom as well. And anybody, like you say, you do it by donation, so anybody can email you or contact you on your website. And so it's been really an absolute delight and pleasure to have you on the show, and for you to share, because I know, we've had emails and different things, and you do full moon things and new moons and all and different dates. It's all on your website, or you get it on email. So very busy. So is there any words of wisdom that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I'd say embrace the dark in whatever form that it shows up in your life, and let that be your greatest teacher. And don't hide your light, because we need your gifts. And going along with the title of your show, Dare to Dream Your New Dream.
Wonderful. Right. Well, thank you very much once again. Like I say, it's been an absolute delight and pleasure. And thank you for all our listeners. I know there's comments coming and going, but I have to keep my focus, or I forget what I'm talking about if I'm trying to read that.
I have there too.
So anything to share there, Jeffrey? Any messages or anything? Anything?
No, it was interesting. You sent those book covers. Was there any particular reason?
We didn't even get to those parts, so yeah.
Is there any
I got a little smidgen.
Hey?
Yeah, so no big deal on those. Yeah, we'll have to do another show.
Hey?
Yeah, definitely. Have you got them there to show or no?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
All right, there you are.
Yeah, it won't mean anything unless I tell you the backstory behind it. But anyway, that's Michael Newton's book. So anybody that wants to know about life after life, I really highly recommend his works. And all his works, everything was done by his clients who were under hypnosis. So it's talking about, you want to know about twin flames and all that kind of stuff too, and soulmates. His book covers the whole gamut.
Yeah, because I know one thing that popped out is popped back in again. Is when you were talking about UFOs. I mean, have you seen many? I mean, like, you know, I'll quickly share. Carol and I were in Glastonbury. I don't know, a good few months ago now, and we couldn't sleep. We'd gone to a healing event and we were just overactive. We were stood out in the garden in Glastonbury, and Carol shouts, "Quick, come and see this." And there's this cigar-shaped ship going across, and it was just like, it was all lit up. And my God, I was going, we're here. But they carried on by. But it was just phenomenal. You know, I've seen odd ones in the sky, but never as close as that. And it was just amazing. Mm-hmm. So have you got a quick one to share about any UFOs?
Well, I've seen a lot of them, especially when I lived in Sedona. And then for 3 years, I lived on the side of a mountain outside of Sedona where there's no bugs or anything like that. So I could sleep outside and there all the time. And a lot of them were black ops because we'd see the black helicopters and stuff. There were definitely secret bases there in the place called Secret and stuff like that. The one experience, shorten it down for you. I knew something about ships and stuff. You know, I just knew. I was never into the UFO thing or anything that I saw had to do mostly with, you know, what was on the tabloid as I'm going to the grocery line. But I just knew. I moved to to an island, and when I did, the island the apartment that I had was away from everybody else, and it was all dark and just over the water and stuff. So for the first time in years, I was able to see stars at night because there's no light pollution there. Mm-hmm. And I started looking at these stars, and there were 3 of them that just like, I know you're not stars. I know you're pretending to be a star. I know you're not a star. And I'm having a crazy thought, like, how do I know, you know, what, you know, whatever. And then I had an experience. I got mad. I was like, I was crying to him, take me up, beat me up, Scotty, beat me up. I don't want to be here. I don't belong here. Yeah. Not home. You know, a lot of you relate to that. And,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I just I spent most of my life wanting to get off planet. And so anyway, then I had an experience, and that night I came home and I was furious. I went out on the balcony, and luckily I was pretty secluded. There's only 4 neighbors around me, and none of them were home because I was screaming out loud. And I'm like, show yourselves to me. I know it's you. Quit messing with me. Because I'll tell them to zig or to zag or whatever, but show yourselves to me. And it was amazing. It was like, okay, they look like they're stars, but all of a sudden all 3 of them just zipped in and right over my head. They're like double saucer shapes, have lights and stuff like that. And I just like, I knew it. And I just started bawling, my brothers. You know, sometimes I just watch myself because I don't know what. My brother, take me home. And I got snot running down my face. I'm crying, just take me home. And I'm so excited to see them. And then I heard very clearly, you know, when you go out dancing and you put on a dress, we think that's the funniest thing. Yeah. And I had to laugh because I just started hysterically laughing because it was something I would not have expected. But I knew what they're talking about. They saw me as a male. And when I put on a dress and act like a girl, they thought it was funny. So it just took me by surprise, and it was just so oddball that I just started hysterically laughing at that time. And they said, you know, when you ask us to zig and zag, and they'll zig and zag for me. And you ask us to turn the lights on and off, blink them off and on to prove that we're there. You know, stop that. We got work to do. He said, you signed up for Earth duty, so suck it up and be quiet and leave us alone.
Oh, that's fair enough.
Yeah. So, okay. I was seriously humbled, a bit embarrassed, but okay, I got my validation. You're definitely real. And then they said, okay, are you all right? And I said, yeah, okay. And they just went right back up and they were stars again. I was like, whoa. And when I got to Sedona, this shortened the story a lot, but I met a lot of different indigenous people, and I asked them all the same thing. I said, do you see certain stars in the night? They're like kind of red, white, and blue looking. They twinkle different and they're really bright. Yeah. Well, those are the star people. So all the indigenous people throughout the world, because I met a lot of different global ones that everybody comes to Sedona. It's a Mecca. And so it was just amazing. So got my validation on that.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think we'll have to have you back another time to share more stories. You compile a list of your stories to share, and we'll come back another time and share with us.
Sounds great. I am compiling them because they're going into another book. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
I love Sedona as well. I think it's a fantastic place, Sedona. Yeah.
It is. It's awesome. And I lived there for 11 years. Another one of those 11s.
11, yeah. Well,
I moved on 11.
I stayed up a couple of times there, Sliding Rock Resort, right up in the Oak Creek Canyon, then down at the Horse Ranch B&B, and then up opposite Whole Foods. I loved Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's something about that place, isn't it? You can you go to sleep that night, and you just go traveling at night, don't you?
Yeah, and everybody goes there. And before it became Whole Foods, it was the same type of thing, but it was locally owned, and it had a whole different energy then too. A lot of the locals didn't like it when Whole Foods bought it because it changed some, but it's the same energy to me. You know, it became the same energy because everybody's still going there, and they opened it up where you can eat in there and stuff.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference. And I had Wi-Fi because I lived there a lot of times after I came back for a visit, and I had a place I needed Wi-Fi. So I've seen everybody goes through there, you know. So it's a gathering hotspot.
So too is that the community center in the Rock. They've got the feminine energy. What's the name of that place?
Are you talking about the church or the community center?
Community center in the Rock.
I forget the name.
And from the main street, you went down past that Plato. What was it? That Spanish thing, and then you go across the creek, and then you turn left and go up.
Yeah, there's several.
Really awesome, that place.
Yeah, there's several really hot spots. They have 7 main vortices there that are really. It really gets wacky. The energy gets wacky because a lot of people will come there because it's more of a tourist attraction and stuff, and people come there to heal, so they dump all their stuff there. So those of us that live there and were working there, we were constantly having to clear your stuff.
Bit like Glastonbury.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I have to say, I was really attracted to Bunyan Canyon. You know.
Yeah, that's out there behind there. That's where the government black ops stuff is. There's called Secret Canyon back in there. So yeah.
Oh, that's strange.
A lot of interesting things. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Nothing else to report then, is it?
No.
I could go another 100 hours.
Well, you know,
shoot, it's only 5 o'clock. My day's just begun.
Yeah. Are you going to have a few hours shut eye?
I had beforehand. Now I'll probably be too hyped up. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you once again for being our guest this week. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you, and you guys keep doing what you're doing because it's so needed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Love you.